Hi, my name is Heather, and my project was on urban farming and how it works. Urban farming has been around since the Middle Ages to feed urban communities. It's largely used as an alternative to large scale commercial farming, and it's very successful in both the private and public sector. So, the origins of urban farming. Urban farming kind of came about out of necessity. Currently, there's approximately 800 million people who don't have access to a secure food supply year-round. This means that at least part of the year they're living in what's considered a food desert. And this also is a problem for workers. Agriculture accounts for 40% of the low-income workforce. So if you don't live in a rural area, you're not typically or traditionally going to be able to get one of these jobs. So urban farming just provides another job market in urban areas. So urban farming has been used since the Middle Ages. It was typically used in times of war or natural disaster when traditional farming wasn't possible or too challenging. They would just plant what they could, herbs, crops, medicine within cities. There's a more recent example was the Potato Patch Program, which took place in Detroit in the 1980s. And basically it just encouraged people to start urban gardens and farms on vacant lots. So how does urban farming work? Basically, farms of kind of any sort are created in an urban area on as little as a quarter acre of land. These are called microplots, but kind of largely it is just an alternative way to grow food. So it doesn't have to be on one of these microplots. It could be a rooftop garden, any kind of container, windowsill, parking lot, really anywhere you can get something to grow. These farms exist in both the private and public sectors and are run by both for-profit and non-profit organizations, depending on where the farm's located and what kind of the goal and the mission of the farm is. So kind of how does the financial side of this work? Urban farms find the most success when they prioritize projects and more value that are more valued in wealthier communities. This kind of makes sense. They have to cater to the market. Some farms are not completely economically stable on their own, and in this circumstance, they rely on grants. Whoever owns the farm will contribute lots of labor, and also volunteers to grow the crops and make the farm work. And there are also nonprofits that run urban farms for the communities that they're located in. Oftentimes, these will sell their crops at an affordable price in the low-income areas after they've given some of the crops to the community. And then they take the remaining that they haven't sold in the lower income area and they sell the food at a premium price to restaurants or other high-end markets. There are also subsidies that urban farms can benefit from that can provide land access or just some money to help running the farm, but this isn't nearly as much as is given to large commercial growers and is only available kind of in specific circumstances. So this also kind of points out some of the disparities between groups that benefit from urban farmings. Typically, there are more and better crops available to higher income areas and low income areas, and it's more accessible to affluent communities. There are also some disparities that are thought to be because of race by some researchers, and all of this is problematic because many urban farms claim that they're aiming to provide a healthy food to low income areas, but if they're not doing this, then they can be benefiting from government money or donations if they're kind of more nonprofit when they're not achieving what they say they are. So kind of what's the difference between the private and public sector farms? In the private sector, there's little access to land. No one's going to give it to you, so the farmers have to buy the land, which leads to a higher startup cost. They also need more employees, which creates a larger overhead. But this does create more jobs, kind of in the more public sector. This is seen completely separate from industrial agriculture, and the really only main constraint on it is that they must follow certain ordinances depending on where the farm is located and what the area is zoned for. So what are the impacts of urban farming? Largely it reduces food insecurity among vulnerable groups. It provides more options in low-income areas. And if urban farm is placed in a food desert, it does give people an option to have healthy food. It also nurtures social and economic development. If people in an area are able to work on the farm, that creates jobs, what can foster spending and boost the economy a little bit. Also, if it's a large volunteer presence or something that a lot of community members are involved in, it can just kind of nurture a sense of community. It also prioritizes an environmental mindset. If you see the farm or around it or working with it, the environment is going to be much more on your mind than if you're just kind of eating whatever's available to you. It also could clean up neighborhoods. If there's just a vacant lot, it's like collecting garbage, and that's turned into something productive like an urban farm, that's going to kind of change the feel a little bit and make it a little nicer. It also provides healthy diet options. Fruits and vegetables are healthy, and that's what these farms typically grow. And so if you have access to that as opposed to just like McDonald's, for example, it just gives you a better, more balanced dietary options. So how should urban farming look in the future? The popularity of these farms has really been growing in recent years, so hopefully there should continue to be an expansion of them and more of them. It's a much more environmentally conscious way to produce food, which is something that more and more people are thinking of, and there are a lot of social benefits as it nurtures the community, and people benefit from it. So thank you, that was my presentation.